Officer Runk, good afternoon. What's your full name, sir?
It's Martin Runk, R-U-N-K. I'm assigned to the Southern District Operations and Neighborhood Services Unit.
All right.
And could you please, have you reviewed these, did you help produce and review these records?
Yes, ma'am, I generated that report.
Okay, and could you tell the commissioners what this is?
That is a list of calls for service that have come into the police department through 911 from April 1st to May 28th April 1st of 2012 to May 28th of 2013.
And what area is shown in the records?
I pulled it by the 942 post, which is the area immediately around the Cross Street Market.
And how are the records selected? Are they just weekends? Are they, what are they?
No, it's a 24-hour period from the start date of April 1st to May 28th of 2013.
And what crimes did you particularly focus on when you pulled and were reviewing these records?
I pretty much pulled everything except for property crimes.
And is this, have you taken a look at this chart?
Yes, I have.
And is this representative of the information immediately around the Cross Street area that's in these papers?
Yes.
Let's see if I can see that. So these commissioners,
Yes.
these are in.
Yeah, we're looking at them now. These are part 48 or 47.
Yeah, and that's the summary.
Yeah, these are the documents that we're discussing are at Exhibit 12, Part 47. Is that summary also in evidence?
No, I was just.
Oh, okay.
using now.
All right, 18. Any objection to 18? Summary of calls for service. All the calls for service themselves have already been introduced into evidence at Exhibit 12, Part 48. I'm going to assume the officer prepared this, the summary.
I did not do the summary. I did
Did the computer do it? Is it an automatic summary?
No, it was generated off of the printout. I'm not exactly sure who completely did it, if it was one person or a group.
So I don't know if you want to, if you'd like to review this, what it is a summary of all the highlights here.
I have that in mind.
Okay.
Basically, what they did on the summary is they went through all of the calls for service and they took the time periods out of the calls for service that actually would have been from bar traffic, so that they weren't pulling calls for service at 8 o'clock in the morning. My computer wouldn't break it down any farther than the way that I broke it down. So you'll see on the big packet, there's almost 3,400 calls for service in that time frame, but they broke it down to where it was only 635 that applied.
That could possibly be attributed to
Yes, sir.
late night bar activity.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So you're saying that the calls for service you found, those 636, is it?
635.
635, you believe are connected to drinking crowds around Cross Street?
Yes, ma'am.
And does this account for every crime of these types for the full year?
No, I'm sure there's more crimes go unreported all the time.
And when and where are you assigned? Where do you work?
I actually work the entire district, but in reference to the bars, I frequently work the overtime on Friday and Saturday nights. I'm usually there at least one day out of the weekend, and that's going on for like the last 3 years.
And what's it like when the bars let out?
Depending on how big the crowd is the night and how much of the capacity they're at, it can actually be mass chaos when they let out. Everybody's pushed out of the bars onto the sidewalk, and then if we have the roads closed, they go into the street. If there's cars coming, they still go into the street. And from there, we pretty much push them out into the neighborhoods to try to get them away from the bar area.
So your job is actually these massive amounts of people come out, and your job is just to sort of like make them disperse into the neighborhoods.
It's basically to keep the peace in front of the bars itself.
And that sounds scary.
It can be.
Do you have any concerns about this intense concentration of drinking establishments?
The main concerns you have to worry about are the fights, drunk people bumping into each other, or a drunk person bumping into a sober person. The females coming out being extremely intoxicated and sitting down on the sidewalk, and then you have no idea who the guy is that walks up and grabs their hand and walks them down the street. I'm sure there's sexual assaults that have gone unreported down there. Those are the actual main things. The drunk people going into the neighborhoods and then subsequently getting robbed. Because like the Sharp Leadenhall area, there's a little bit more crime in that area. If they happen to wander off in that direction, there's a good likelihood that they'll be robbed on the way to the cars.
Is there drunk driving concerns?
There are drunk driving concerns, but the main thing is the drunks walking into the street with the normal traffic. A lot of the people that leave the bars are walking because there's no place for them to park around the bars. So they'll park outside of the parking permit area. So then subsequently, they walk through the neighborhood back to their cars. So some of them walk in the street, some of them walk on the sidewalk. Some of them get robbed in the process of going back to their cars. And the bad word, I don't want to say that, it's not a word, but the worst parts of the neighborhood, the people that are doing the crimes actually know this, and they sit there and they wait for their prey, basically.
I'd like to show a video that you all have and that Mr. Holman has. I'm at time point 3:29 on the video. I'll make this as big and as obvious as possible.
I can see it very well. Here.
Okay.
Can you see it, Mr. Holman?
Okay.
This is previously received in evidence, so go right ahead.
Sorry.
Come on.
Okay. I'd just like you to take a look at this and tell me if this is pretty typical what you experience on a.
Say hi.
I actually can't read, but I read move on. I said move on. Move on.
Oh,
Done with
I'm gonna
it.
be upset about it.
No, you act like an asshole. Move on. Don't come over.
Why? I told you where I live.
There's a young woman coming out of a. That's fascinating. Having fun?
mm-hmm.
Having fun? There's Adrian. It's good. I don't know how you guys put up with this. Having fun?
Mm-hmm.
There's Adrian.
Is that pretty typical of the cross-street area closure on a Friday or Saturday night?
That's actually a slow night.
That's a slow night. Okay, thank you.
The crowd would normally come off the sidewalk and you would be basically pinned on the yellow line in the middle of the street. Those are on the nights the streets are closed. When the nights the streets are open, you just have traffic stop in the middle of them because they will walk out in front of them, not caring about the traffic.
No further questions.
I have no questions for the officer. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Mr. Holman?
I have one question.
Are you familiar with other areas such as Power Plant Live or Canton where the,
I'm familiar with Canton, a little bit. I've spent most of my career in the Southern District,
okay,
not so much with the power plant though.
okay. Is this typical for those other, this type of behavior from the patrons at closing time? Is this typical for those areas as well?
It seems to me that it's amplified because there's no room for them to move to.
Amplified in Federal Hill?
In Federal Hill, yes. They've got more room to move around, so the crowd doesn't look as bad over in Canton or in Fells Point.
Last question, and you may have already spoke to this, about how many police officers are detailed there on a typical Friday, Saturday night?
Friday and Saturday nights, you have 3 officers and a supervisor working a 4-hour overtime from 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning. There are 4 patrol cars that are assigned to that area with 1 supervisor. They normally don't come into the bar area because they have to worry about the surrounding areas.
I just want you to clarify, when you say that area, you mean specifically the cross-street
The
market?
cross-street market. On the southern boundary would sort of be West Street for the overtime. Noble's Bar, which is almost up to Hamburg Street on the north, and then basically just from Charles to Light Street. You'll have 4 officers that stand there pretty much the entire night.
Nothing further. Thank you for coming down, officer.
No problem.
And I would only have one question on a follow-up, that you said that these officers, there's 4, at least 4 on overtime,
Yes, sir.
and who pays for the overtime?
I believe that the Hospitality Association reimburses the police department.
Nothing further. Thank you, officer.
Thank you.